Good morning and welcome to Today in the News here in Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adewumi. Let's get started first with the Vanguard newspaper. Major headline on Vanguard says NECA MAN NACCIMA rejects Senate NSITF takeover. One against politicization of Workers' Fund. Say move to amend Act threatens transparency, violates ILO's convention. The story can be found on page 4 of the Vanguard newspaper. Top banner, Soludo's campaign moves to Urumba. Nigeria loses $6.8 billion to oil production shortfalls in 8th month. Dangote expands refinery capacity to 1.4 million barrels per day. I will sack incompetent contractor, says Okpebolo. Enugu government arrests man for defiling his two daughters. Lower banner, Serap to NNPCL. Account for missing 22.3 billion naira. $49.7 million, 14.3 million euros, and 5.2 million pounds oil funds. Access Holdings gross earnings up by 13.8% to 2.5 trillion naira. Resident doctors declare indefinite nationwide strike from October 31st. Away from Vanguard, straight into the Punch newspaper. Major headline on the Punch says, under Buhari, Tinubu, 500 generals forced out despite rising insurgency. Ex-general warn of crisis as Buhari Tinubu eras lose young generals to early retirement after shakeups. Economic recovery has begun, says Edun. Lower banner, CBN pumps $1.25 billion into fuel import, others in 3 months. 5 pregnant Ondo girls rescued from baby factory. Soludo's 1 million naira promise for voters to curb apathy, says APGA. Away from the Punch, straight into the Nation newspaper. Major headline on the Nation says, National Assembly Constitution Review Panel proposes 6 new states. Top banner, Supreme Court Justice worried about lawyers' poor legal knowledge. Nigeria records over $50 billion in cryptocurrency trading. Police uncover baby factory in Ondo. Rice price crashes across Lagos market. Lower banner, NECA opens UK exam center for Nigerians in the diaspora. Away from the Nation, straight into the Guardian newspaper. Major headline on the Guardian says, 767 local government areas without active websites amid autonomy, 3 trillion naira yearly windfall. Organized private sector opposes move to amend NSITF Act. Constitution review, Al-Kalu pushed for additional Southeast state. Resident doctors to begin strike Friday over unmet demands. Ayedatiwa clears backlog of Ondo police salary arrears. Crush terrorism now, Nigerians task new service chiefs. While we are expanding our refinery to 1.4 million ppd by Dangote. That's all we have on the front page of the newspapers this morning. Join us after the break for a quick analysis of some of our top stories. Welcome back. If you just tuned in, this is Today in the News here on Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adewumi. Joining me in the studio today for a quick analysis is Mr. Leo Mohammed, CEO Magna Communication Limited. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Looking to our top story for today. Several major private sector businesses associations, including the Manufacturer Association of Nigeria MAN, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association NECA, and Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture NACCIMA, under the umbrella of the Organized Private Sector of Nigeria OPSN, have rejected the proposed amendment by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund Act, NSITF. They argue that the amendment undermines the transparency and accountability of the NSITF, threatens the tripartite governance structure, meaning employer, labor, government, and increases risk of political interference. They claim it violates International Labour Convention that Nigeria has ratified. They also say there's no proven operational defect with NSITF that warrants this overall. So from your perspective, how significant is this pushback from, these private sector organizations?
Well, I have not seen the so-called amendments. I don't know the content, I don't know the details, but I have read about it. And I think those who are opposing it will have some reasons for doing so, just like you said. But in every legislation, there are always gray areas, and there are good parts of an average legislation. I want to believe that those who are criticizing that bill would have studied it properly. Because you see, a lot of us, we react to some parts of illegal documents without looking at the other parts. That is why I'm asking, and I want to know if they have thoroughly gone through that bill. Because no bill is absolutely bad. And those who enacted that bill, I believe, would have done their homework. I want to differ by saying that we should thoroughly look at it. What are the good areas? What are the bad areas? Before we can come up with a wholesome condemnation of it. We've hurriedly, or we are used to hurriedly condemn any government initiative without taking cognizance of the nitty-gritty of some of these laws. I was privy to the drafting of a particular document for a government organization, and those who didn't know at that time wholeheartedly or wholesomely condemned that document. But we had to sit them down and explain, do a breakdown, do a thorough analysis of the documents before those who were supposed to read thoroughly, before they did, we had to explain to them. So not all legislations, not all policies are wholesomely bad. I won't join the crew or the people condemning that act or bill. But I want to appeal that we patiently look at it. If truly we have some part of the document that are not good enough, let us stay together and do a positive amendment to it. Because you see, laws are meant to govern men. Laws are made to direct men positively, not negatively. Those who made those regulations or laws wouldn't intentionally create something, a bad atmosphere with that law. And so if there are areas that are not too good, we can sit down and do a thorough review. Because you see, some legislation, some regulations, some laws are made with the intention of benefiting the people. But some of us may not look at that benefit in the first place. We go straight to the bad aspect, not looking at the good aspect. As an administrator, I have come to know that. So I want to believe that the acts that they are talking about may be one of those kind of laws that people have not really taken time to study properly.
So the private sector organization, they argue that there's no major operational defect in the current NSITF that needs reform, and that instead attention should go back to the Nigerian Labour Law Bill.
Which speaks more about the welfare of workers.
Mm-hmm.
I understand where they are coming from. You see, an average worker wants a situation where his earnings, allowances, retirement benefits are guaranteed. And I don't think in Nigeria so far there is any law that is against that, except some laws that may be found in the private sector. An average law created by government for the welfare of the workers is strictly for the welfare of the workers. You can't find anything outside the personal interests of the workers. Well, in the private sector, you can have some reasons to doubt. But in the public sector, an average law that is meant to take care of the welfare of workers will truly do so. So I do not see any reason why anybody should have a doubt, But those who believe that some part of it are not good enough, there is a process for an amendment always. No law is sacrosanct. No law is 100% perfect. A law that is meant for the welfare of the people could be continuously reviewed, and it is usually continuously reviewed to serve the needs of the workers at every time, at every season that an average worker lives, either as a young staff, middle-aged staff, even in retirement. The welfare of an average worker is guaranteed. That's why you have pension. That's why you have retirement benefits. When a worker retires, he goes to collect his pension. Pension is created to sustain you even in retirement. So you can see that, like I said, no aspect of the laws for the welfare of the workers can be underestimated or can be rubbished by any organization, especially government agencies. So I want to appeal to those who believe that that aspect of the welfare of workers is not being taken care of. No, I believe that there must be some missing gaps in whatever it is they are looking at, and it can be corrected.
How would you say this would be corrected? How should the association go about this?
There is a forum of public servants. They have different unions where they can come together and form a common force to get the government to correct everything that they feel is wrong with that law. I am happy that we've not had strikes for some time now, because you see, we probably come to realize that strikes are not the solution to any problem, any labor problem. No, it is an extreme solution to any labor problem. So there is nothing as good as sitting down with your employers, either government or private sector, to discuss whatever issues you have, instead of creating a tensed atmosphere, either within the state or even the nation, or the private sector itself. There is a forum. That is why we have unions. Explore the unions, explore the leadership of the unions to achieve whatever it is that you have against government or against private organizations. It's not every time that we want to do we no go gree, those things are becoming mundane. Protest, once there is an open door for you to lay complaints, and you know that your employers are ready to react or look into such complaints, you adopt that process at all times.
Look into our second story for today. It is reported that under the administration of Muhammad Buhari 2015 to 2023 and the present administration Bola Tinubu in Nigeria, around 500 plus generals, including the senior military officers, have been forced or had to retire or removed. What is your view on the current 500 generals that have been forced out? What is your view? What's your take on it?
I'm not in government, but we had stories of an alleged coup plot if it is true, then whatever steps the president or the government has taken to deal with that issue may be justified. Because you see, that kind of massive reorganization cannot just take place without any reason. I am sure that those who talked about the coup plots have some specific reasons for saying that there was a coup plot. But unfortunately, till now, they've not told us, those who were behind the coup plot, whether anybody was arrested or not. It is key that we know if that rumor is true or not. But with what has happened in the last 3 days, it becomes it is like the coup story was true. Because you have that massive reorganization within the armed forces. It points to a situation where there was a lot of attempts to undermine this present administration. I don't want to say remove. You undermine the present administration, and nobody will be the president and overlook such a criminal act. And that is why we had this reaction. The man has decided to ensure that the entire security architecture of this country is overhauled, and in the process, a lot of officers have to go. You know, if I am a major general at 59, and there is another major general at 51, and the president decides to remove me and bring that 51-year-old major general, all the senior major generals will have to leave because he is now the chief of army staff. That is the present system. Because why that happens is because there shouldn't be this aspect of jealousy or competition for promotion in the army. So once you are 59, for instance, and you have a chief of army staff who is 51, all other officers will have to retire. That is the scenario that is playing out in Nigeria army and Nigerian defense architecture today. That is what is playing out. And that is why we have that massive resignation or massive sack of officers. They probably have brought an officer that is younger than those who were there before.
So the others have to go.
So all the others that are older than the chief of army staff will have to be retired. It is not as if all those that have been sacked all took part in the coup. That is the interpretation people are giving to that action. Because I was somewhere yesterday and somebody shouted, Tinubu, why is he sacking so many officers? And I looked at those who were talking. I just decided to keep quiet because you see, no explanation that you give there will make them to change their mind on their line of thoughts. We must understand the way the military works. Once you have a chief of army staff who is 50, and you have other officers who are older than him, and once he becomes chief of army staff, all those other people,
you have to go,
is to ensure that there is no competition among the rank and file of the army. That whoever takes over then must 100% be in charge without looking at the age of his subordinates who are likely to be older than him and other things like that. So that is why we have this large number of retirements. It's not as if the president just woke up one day and said, no, you must go. Yes, there was a coup plot, but you and I cannot tell the nation the extent of that plot. But unfortunately, the president was outside the country then. And that again could be the reason why the coup was plotted, because the man was outside the country. And so when you have this kind of situation, we need to explain to the people. And the people need to know. Unfortunately, the government is not doing that explanation. People see them as sacking soldiers massively. But in the hierarchy of the Air Force, Nigerian Navy, Nigerian Army, once you have a general that is younger than other officers, once that general is made the head of that arm of the military, either the Navy, even the police.
Yeah.
Once a younger man becomes the head, all those who are senior to him in age will have to retire. But so that is what is playing out today. Why somebody come and say, Tinubu, this is, I said, no, you can't. It has been there. That rule has been there over the years, even during Buhari's administration. Once you bring a younger officer, an officer that is younger to everybody else, that they are on the same rank, and they make that man the chief of army staff. If you are 51 and a half years and the chief of army staff is 51, you have to go. It's automatic.
Critics are actually talking about how all of this will also affect the morale of the younger, armed forces that are below. Do you support this? What do you think about this? Do you think any of this will in any way affect their morale? Because everybody wants to rise to the top, and then seeing all of this happen as a young official, do you
it is
think
only God that determines who will rise to the top in any profession. You work very hard. I'm talking about every profession that we have in this world. If you work very hard, you will rise. Some of us became editor at 38. Before we became editors, if you must be an editor as a journalist, we met people who are 50 and above. But in our day, some of us became editor at 38. It was so bad that the official car that Concord was supposed to give to me was withheld, because the MD believed that this boy, that he could drive. And meanwhile, as at that age, I had my own car, personal car. So I wasn't even bothered about the official car. I was flogging my car, good car then. I was flogging my car around. So one day the chairman of Concord came around and they had a meeting upstairs, and I came down at night to be going to the house. And the man said, why are you not using your official car? I said, I don't have one. He said, doing. Why is it that he doesn't have a car or an official car? And I said, they told him that he's too young. I don't want him to kill himself. So I said, the chairman said, but he's driving his own car and he didn't kill himself. The following day, I got an official car. So you see, all these politics didn't stop with the military. It is not. There are some rules. There are some rules that we must follow in all organizations. In the military, that is strictly the rule. Once you have a younger officer, all the officers that are older than that officer must be resigned, or must be retired. That's the appropriate word.
Okay, so a lot of citizens are complaining that this is when there's a rise in insurgency. Is this actually the right time to actually sack or let senior leaders actually
go?
The
Nigerian army, or in fact the armed forces, they do recruitment almost every month now. I have a young man that just joined the army. They don't announce all those recruitments again. In those days, they will put it in the paper if you want to join the army. No, they recruit now every day on daily basis because of the insurgency that we have. which requires the presence of the military in a lot of places in this country, in the east, in the far north, in the middle belt. You have soldiers being deployed there every day. They are recruiting. In those days, the military used to recruit once, but now they recruit almost on daily basis because a lot of people are taken out due to their engagement in serious battle with Boko Harams and all that. So recruitment into the armed forces is not periodical anymore. It is almost a daily thing now. Go and do your checks. When last did you see an announcement in the newspapers that the Nigerian army want to recruit? Because that has become a necessity. They have to replace those who are old. They have to replace those who have been taken to war and got killed in the process of that war. They have to replace them. You can imagine the level of staffing in the military if they stay without recruitment and they get their officers to the war front and some of them get killed. There will be a crisis. So recruitment into the armed forces seems to be a regular thing these days. I wouldn't say daily, but it has become more regular because they have to replace those that have gone with wars and those who had who were accidentally killed. And so it's not, I don't think it is once in a year anymore, but you need to be part of the system to know when those recruitments are taking place.
The last question, as we call it, do you think there's any risk associated with the fact that, senior leaders are being sacked right now? Would you say there's any risk associated with this?
See, it's a standard rule. It's a standard rule. It exists in the armed forces. Once somebody is younger than you, because they all know now, when somebody who is younger than you becomes the chief of army staff, not even the chief of defense staff now, you have to be chief of army staff first before you get promoted to chief of defense staff. Once you see that scenario happening, you don't need a prophet to tell you that
this is
time to go. They don't even. I have a friend in the army who just left too, in the same scenario. He said when they announced that, he told himself that it is time to go. And he waited until he got his letter and they paid them immediately. Once they are asked to go, they get paid. That's one good aspect of it. Because it's another thing for you to get retired and now stay at home begging for your payment. No, it isn't like that. But there are necessary things that must happen in a situation where there is no peace in some parts of the country. That's why we all pray for peace. If there is peace, there is no war. We won't have a situation where soldiers will be killed and will now have to be recruiting almost on a monthly basis. People must embrace peace. In any society where there is no peace, you can't have development. As are these areas these troubled areas, go there. You'll be surprised at the level of development there. Yet they will turn around to blame government. You can only develop a peaceful and lawful area. You can't go to a place where people are fighting war and say you want to do road. How will you do the road now when bullet can hit you at any time? So people should embrace peace and let us work together and develop this country.
Thank you very much for joining us today, sir.
You're most welcome.
That was Mr. Liu Mohammed, CEO Magnet Communication Limited. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms as seen on your screen, and for up-to-date stories at our website www.vanguardngr.com. My name is Ololade Adewumi.